So I went to public school growing up, as I'm sure many of you did. Yes. Woo-woo, budget cuts, we love it. So what that means is in first grade, I got to experience baby's first socioeconomic class warfare in the form of reading groups. So if you didn't have reading groups in your school, basically what that means is they split your first grade class into like 3 little groups, so it's easier to manage all the idiots during reading time, because kids, they don't know how to read. Fucking idiots. So they used to tell us that it was like totally random what group that we were in, like, oh yeah, we just throw you all in a hat and pick them, but then they would name the groups after the fucking traffic light colors. Like, first we'd have like the green group, which was like, go read. That's great. And then like the yellow group, like, whoa, kiddo, slow down there. And then it was just red. Stop, don't even fucking try. I don't understand how that's supposed to be encouraging for kids, that's why like half of us grow up just like vomiting every time we see a book, and the other half of us are just fragile narcissists who stand on stages and ask people for validation. Anyway, so every week we would have like a theme for the books that we read in our groups. It would be like space or animals or something cute like that. In my school, like twice a year, it would be like civil rights. I don't know why they called it that, because like it was just kind of like Black People Exist Week, which granted was very necessary in my town. But anyway, each of the little groups would read their own books. So the red group would read, Jimmy Makes a Friend. It was like a heartwarming tale of interracial friendship. And then the yellow group would read a biography of Martin Luther King Jr. Really great. And then the green group would read The History of Lynching in America. And there were pictures. So the most traumatizing little reader that I ever read was actually not the KKK or lynching, believe it or not. Although if they told me that the KKK still fucking existed, then maybe I would have felt differently. But the scariest book that I read was about the cassowary. Now, if you don't know what a cassowary is, that's probably for the best. I actually brought some pictures. It's a bird, and it looks like an ostrich. But if an ostrich was very flamboyant and also wanted to eat my bones. So I'm gonna pass these photos around. Just show them to all your friends. Here he is. He wants to kill me. I don't think this motherfucker is appropriate for children, personally. This giant bird in my childhood, after I read this book, became like this very morbid obsession of mine. It was like Jean Bonnet before I knew who Jean Bonnet was. But my search history was like cassowary murder, cassowary attack, cassowary length of claws. They're 5 inches long, in case you were wondering. So they're bigger than any penis I've ever seen. Which is pretty scary. There was actually recently, in 2019, there was a guy in the US who was killed by a cassowary. He was illegally keeping one as a pet, which makes me just imagine like you go on Tinder and you meet this guy and he's like, oh, by the way, do you like pets? And you're like, yeah, I love dogs. And he's like, right. And then this bitch answers the door. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the gifted program in school was both responsible for my fear of failure and also my fear of giant birds. Thank you very much. Good night.